White Fang by Jack London, Chapter 14. Beauty Smith. In the autumn, Gray Beaver and White Fang left the Indian camp. They traveled up the Mackenzie River and across the Rockies. Their trip lasted several months as they stopped to camp and hunt along the way. This was a time of calm for White Fang, with no other dogs and only Gray Beaver nearby. He had hopes, if a wolf can, in fact, hope, that this was the start to a new life. Their time alone, however, was short-lived. White Fang and Gray Beaver arrived in Fort Yukon in the spring. This was the old Hudson's Bay Company trading fort. It was the meeting place for anyone coming through that part of the North. There were many people, much food, and a great deal of excitement. Only a few people lived there full-time. The population rose and fell with the arrival and departure of ships. It was a town full of people coming and going. It was 1898, and thousands of gold hunters were going to the Yukon, to Dawson and the Klondike. They all wanted to make their fortune, but few did. Most people returned home as poor as when they left. The North could easily break one's spirit. Few people were strong enough to survive the weather, the loneliness, and the danger. The men and women who lived in Fort Yukon considered themselves a special breed. They laughed at newcomers. They bet on who would make it and who would fail. And when there was a windfall, when someone found gold and riches, money in the fort flowed freely. Gray Beaver had heard about the gold rush, and he had come with several bales of furs and another bale of mittens and moccasins. He settled down to trade carefully and slowly. He, too, wanted to make his fortune, even if it took all summer and the next winter. While Gray Beaver was busy working on his trades, White Fang took to the streets. People pointed at him, surprised to see a wolf. Thanks to his years with the dogs at camp, he was already an expert fighter. White Fang was soon the king of Fort Yukon. White Fang fought any dog that crossed his path, and always won. These white man dogs were no match for a wolf. As Gray Beaver neither needed him to work nor cared if he wandered off, fighting filled most of his days. He quickly gained a reputation. If he stopped in front of a store or office, someone rushed outside to shoo him away. They didn't want to lose customers because of the wolf. They knew no one would cross his path. A reverend at the chapel gave sermons against him. He claimed the wolf was a sign of the devil and must be stopped. People crossed the street to avoid him. One person in particular noticed White Fang. His name was Beauty Smith. Although he wasn't much of a beauty, his reputation was almost as bad as the wolf's. He had no friends and many enemies. He worked at many jobs and was usually quickly fired. He stole, lied, and gambled away what little money he had. Like so many others, Beauty had come to Fort Yukon in search of gold. Unlike most people, he decided to stay, but not because he loved the territory or challenges of the North. In reality, he didn't have any place else to go. The Northland was as good a place as any to stop. Beauty was used to others picking on him and calling him names. It had been that way for most of his life. Because of this, he was a bitter and jealous man, and as soon as he saw how powerful and strong White Fang was, Beauty Smith wanted the wolf for himself, and he thought that he and the wolf would have much in common.